This isn't going well. I don't have to tell anybody who just pressed play on this particular podcast. And it might be as bad as it's been for Mike Tomlin in particular. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. If I wanted to, I could make every single episode of this program about this subject. In fact, I could make every headline, title, description identical to the dot matrices, and it would still be the biggest winner that this daily show could ever produce when it comes to numbers. I don't do that. I hope you'll agree. I don't go chasing those figures, though I'm grateful for everybody who does come, regardless of the topic at hand. This topic is timely, it's relevant, and it's real. I'm going to try to put Tomlin's status into a bit of a different frame than others might. See, he doesn't like, in fact, he goes out of his way to avoid carrying one season over to the next or going backward or anything. Everything is about Sunday's game. He has one media session all year long where he'll even entertain questions that have to do with anything that might represent some sort of season-to-season trend. Well, I don't have to check with him for the contents of this show, to say the least. In his past 17 games, Tomlin is 6-11. Those were 17 real NFL games. That's a real thing. That's a real trend, regardless of where he elects to draw the line. Tomlin's current defense, and even if you happen to not believe when people like me report to you that it is actually a Terrell Austin / Tomlin defense, he's just as responsible for it, just as involved in it, at least in terms of setting it up, as Austin is. You have to recognize that the head coach is at the top of that structure. And I would think you'd be moved by a genuine awareness that this might be the worst defense he's had as a head coach. I don't need to express that as an opinion. There is voluminous data to support it. And really, if you think about it, it doesn't even involve research. Just use your own head. When have you ever seen the Steelers at 28th in total defense under Tomlin, or for that matter, under either of his two predecessors? When have you ever seen the Steelers defense ranked next to last in passing yards? When have you ever seen the Steelers be completely petrified, as they've been for half a decade now, on offense to operate in the middle of the field? I'm going to have a lot more to say on that subject over the course of the coming week, because it's not just Mason Rudolph who wasn't allowed to throw over the middle. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been doing it. Justin Fields didn't do it. Russell Wilson didn't do it. Mitch Trubisky didn't do it. Kenny Pickett didn't do it. Everybody in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era of Pittsburgh football has not been permitted on any regular basis to throw over the middle of the field. You know where all of the offense originates in the year of our Lord, 2025. There have been too many quarterbacks, too many coordinators for that not to point to the head coach. Clock management, game awareness, like, for example, not even apparently contemplating having Chris Boswell try for a tying field goal in Chicago. Week-to-week adjustments. Schematics on his preferred side of the football that are now being publicly criticized. Publicly, not just by former players. That's been going on for a while. But now by current players. Patrick Queen, who wears the green dot when this unit spoke into microphones in front of cameras in Chicago as follows, quote, "I think sometimes it was schematic issues that we had. It's kind of hard for two guys that are underneath defenders to try to guard two routes that's overhanging off the hashes and stuff. As much as you know it, you're trying to play the run. You try to get back to a bang or whatever it is, it's hard to do that. It's kind of a bad spot to be in, but at the end of the day, we just need to be better." Several other players have been far more pointed than that away from those same microphones and cameras. Austin knows it. You'd better believe Tomlin knows it. And you want to know one that kind of jumps out at me, although I don't hear many people speaking of this. Remember what you saw of the Steelers in the opening few minutes of that game against the Colts, that wonderful, uplifting home game in which the Steelers took out the number one team in the NFL? Remember how they looked to you? Do you remember how they felt to you if you were in that stadium? You knew they'd win. They were out for blood. They didn't want to tackle people. They wanted to dismember them. They didn't want to cover people. They wanted to assault them. That's been in play, by my accounting, for 2 whole games all season long. That would be the Indianapolis game and the one in Dublin. So tell me again how this isn't different than all those times that Art Rooney could conveniently say afterward, "It's not the head coach." When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action.
Today's J1Q comes from Greg, who asks, "DK, could you please explain why you feel Arthur Smith is such a good coordinator? Please don't tell me what he did in Nashville. He's been here 2 years. And he's consistent in being inconsistent with his play calling. He may be a nice guy, but he's not a very good coach, just better than Matt Canada." This question, or this family of questioning, has been a common one in this direction because I do say good things about Arthur. And I fully expect to continue saying good things about Arthur because I believe not only that he's a good coordinator, I also believe he's just a good overall coach. Now, I say that on this occasion, immediately following what was, for me, one of the more disappointing Arthur outputs in Chicago. I did not like the game he had against the Bears. I have not liked, throughout the season, the reluctance to stick with the run when it's clear that the run is working. I have not liked the offense not just taking what's there and instead trying to expand into something that they're not. And you know what I'm talking about. 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, heaving the ball downfield. Just move the sticks. Don't pretend that you're getting yards in bunches when you're not. The entire month of November will have passed without the Steelers recording a single completion with 20 or more air yards under that ball. Not one, all month. Now, you can either fight that or you can just accept it. You can wish you had such and such roster, or you can deal with what you actually got. I'm convinced that those calls are on Arthur, and I am therefore convinced that he deserves criticism for those calls. All right? You good so far? All right. Because these things don't always have to be all black and all white. I also happen to feel that Arthur has showed more ingenuity than we've seen from anybody at the coordinator's helmet in quite some time. I loved the fake tush push that resulted in the 50-plus yard run for Kenny Gainwell. That one was just drawn up. That was recent. That was not a training camp thing. Mason Rudolph confirmed that. Hats off. That's really thinking outside the box when the tush push itself remains kind of outside the box for this team too. But here's where I separate Arthur from his boss. If you take an oval and drop it around the giant empty space in the middle of the field, the vertical middle, there are no footballs being thrown there. And that has nothing at all in common with what Arthur has done anywhere else he's been, whether it's Atlanta, Nashville, his entire football life. Who he actually is the guy who collects tight ends. And he collects tight ends for the purpose of utilizing them where? On sideline routes? Sideways? No, over the middle of the field. But I'm going to say this again only to buttress the point. Several coordinators, several quarterbacks have come and gone, and that has remained true under Tomlin, because of Tomlin, and in particular because Tomlin lives in his figurative fears, especially doubly so when it comes to offense. All he wants the offense to do is to go out there and not screw up. Don't give the ball away. And based on some sort of 1930s era observation of football, the middle of the field is bad, so stay away from there. When the other team has a good safety or two that he can drop their names in the Tuesday press conference that week, don't ever go there. Remember the game in Atlanta? I'm talking about a year ago. And that, my friends, is playing for survival, and that's why these stories all keep having the same ending, because the team doesn't get better over the course of a regular season schedule. It just doesn't. I mentioned earlier about the offense just taking what's there. Well, you know what's there all the time and doesn't get taken? The middle of the field. It's there for everybody, not just against the Steelers. It's easier against the Steelers, but it's there every Sunday. There just aren't any routes being run there. There aren't any tight ends being sent there. My God, this roster has a tight end who's larger than life, who can mow down humans after the catch. He was targeted twice Sunday in Chicago. Twice. You think that was Mason Rudolph staying away from Washington? You think that was Arthur staying away from Washington? No. And it actually wasn't even Tomlin staying away from Washington. It was Tomlin staying away from the middle of the field. Because, big bad scary bears who lead the NFL in takeaways. So he elects to handcuff his own offense. This one's different. That's all I'm saying. This whole scene right now, this is different. Oh, and by the way, before I sign off for the day, you asked what it is that I like about Arthur. The Steelers are 11th in the NFL in scoring points. And I don't mean scoring points as a team. I mean scoring points as an offense. So, like the Nick Herbig touchdown doesn't count. They're 11th, despite being handcuffed. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. Don't forget that we have a double shot coming your way today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Hope to have you on board for that one as well.